It is 4 o'clock, and I'd like to call the meeting to the North Little Rock Planning Commission to order. If you would, please call the roll.
Banks,
Present.
Glasgow, Chambers. I was going to come back to you. Chambers,
Present.
Foster,
Here.
Phillips,
Here.
Pierce, Wallace, White, and Chairman Clifton.
Here.
Move to excuse those not present.
Motion made and seconded to excuse those commissioners not present. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Under administrative, we do have item 5 today, SD 2022-58, the Spectra Business Park at 1805, 1815, and 1825 East 5th Street has been postponed. So if you are here for that item, it will not be heard today. You have been submitted a copy of the copy of the minutes of our previous meetings. Are there any additions or corrections?
Move for approval.
Motion made to be approved as submitted. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll move right into our Planning Commission items. Mr. Chambers, would you go ahead and take
First item's
1 through
yours.
6?
First item's yours, Mr. Chairman. Item 1's a special use.
I'm sorry.
Item 1 is a special use. It's yours.
Okay. Item 1 is special use case to allow a communication tower at 3128 Pike Avenue in a C4 zone. Is anyone here to represent that? Give us your name for the record, please.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Greg Ferris. I represent Tillman Infrastructure, AT&T, and SCI Wireless for this case.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Yes, sir. Please come forward and give us your name.
Yes, my name is Stephen Smith.
Speak into the microphone, please.
Yes, my name is Stephen Smith. I'm an attorney in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and I represent SBA Communications Corp. I'm here to speak in opposition of this item.
Okay, go ahead and give us your thoughts on it at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Planning Commission. As I stated, I represent SBA Communications Corporation, and the significance of that is that SBA Communications Corporation has a tower that is located approximately 0.79 miles from this proposed tower location. And if I may, I'd like to ask, before I continue with my comments, I'd like to ask a couple of questions about this, because I've reviewed the packet from the website, and the first thing I'd like to know is has there been a proof of publication for this particular item that was submitted?
Ms.
This-
Donna?
The city runs the legal ad in the paper, and they have provided the supplemental notice as required by the Planning Commission, and those notices were mailed, certified mail, return receipt.
Okay, just wanted to verify. And I would assume then also that the property was posted as well, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. So the significance of SBA's concern with this particular proposed tower location is that not only the proximity to SBA's tower, but the fact that AT&T is already a tenant on the SBA tower. And the ordinances here in North Little Rock are very clear that there should be an effort to co-locate. And what's bizarre about this is that they're already a tenant on our tower, and there has been zero communication with SBA by Tillman Infrastructure or AT&T or any other wireless entity that is involved with this proposed tower location about working together to expand coverage on the existing tower so that it could provide the extension of coverage that would be provided with this new tower location. And while I understand, because I was in attendance at the Board of Zoning Adjustment meeting, that says, well, isn't this just beef in between SBA and AT&T? The reality of it is that I am concerned that AT&T and Tillman Infrastructure are asking not only this planning commission, but also in previous hearings, the Board of Zoning Adjustment to set a dangerous precedent. This tower is going to far exceed the height requirement of 75 feet that is proposed in the communications tower ordinances here in this town. And this, interestingly enough, this particular location is zoned C4. So towers are not an allowable use in a C4. And at the last Planning Commission meeting, I noticed in your minutes that there was another AT&T tower that was approved for a special use permit in C3. And when the planning department, as you all know in your packet and you go through, does this set a precedent? I feel like a dangerous precedent is being set because this planning commission and frankly, planning commissions all across the country through Tillman and AT&T are being asked to set aside these particular ordinance requirements, these particular zoning classifications in order to get special use permits when there is a circumstance where AT&T and/or Tillman Infrastructure should be first communicating with other towers where they are either already located or where they could potentially co-locate. And so those are the primary concerns with this particular tower location is that cell towers are increasingly becoming something of contention with the public, city planners, and other folks. And so why is it that we are looking to place towers all over the place when there are existing structures, they are an existing tenant, and they can work together in order to expand the coverage for North Little Rock and other communities rather than engage in new site construction? I'll take any questions.
Okay, yes, sir.
What is the height of your tower that's shared with AT&T? What is the height of your tower?
That's a good question. It's over in my notes, but I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
I mean, is it 75 or is it
I would assume that it is, but I don't want to make a
145?
false statement to this body.
taller than 145?
Pardon?
Is it taller than 145?
I don't know. I don't know.
Shows the applicant has gone before the Board of Adjustment and received a variance for the height request. Has there been any opposition from the neighborhood?
No, sir.
Okay. For the applicant, asked you this, have you received a copy of the considerations of the conditions to consider?
Yes, sir.
Agree with all these?
The only issue that we have, and it wasn't in the list, and I had spoken with Donna, is the setback issue. We were asking that the setback be reduced to 10 feet for the landscaping. We're not putting a building there, so the setback is only for the fence. There are some issues with, we've moved the site slightly to the south, got rid of the retaining walls. There's a power line that really prohibits us going any further south where we can get more depth. If I might address a pretty important point from the gentleman.
Please do.
AT&T is on that tower. This tower is to offload capacity. I don't know if you, Donna, did they receive the propagation maps that we sent?
They receive a few, but they don't receive that entire packet.
Okay, I apologize. The fact is that while 3/4 of a mile may not seem much, it's a long way in cellular communication. Back when I first started this business 20 years ago, we used to put towers anywhere from 2 to 5 miles apart. This was 20 years ago. Now we're putting them a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile apart, because what the issue is that as a tower gets capacity, there's nothing you can do. There's no way to increase that capacity. Once you've gone to 12 antennas, once you put all the radios in there, there's nothing you can do except put a tower in between those two towers. And the map I had provided to planning staff, which is I'm sure one of the reasons why they had no objection to this, shows that we have towers that we're offloading the capacity. So the gentleman's point that there's a tower there is basically irrelevant because we're on that tower and we're trying to offload the capacity of that tower. His tower is much higher than 75 feet. We're on that tower, so I know that. But it's really not even a relevant point because this tower needs to offload the capacity from that tower. And also where we're trying to reach our coverage to offload the capacity to the small cells that are to the south. We can't do that from his tower. So the idea that we can just be 3/4 of a mile away and it's no issue, it's a huge issue. 3/4 of a mile is a long way in cellular communication. So I wanted to address that. I don't know why SBA is here. We haven't talked to them because we didn't need to. We're already on that tower. So what are you going to do?
Mr. Foster?
Let me ask you a question. From the way your explanation here is very good, but I get from that you're going to continue to have a presence on there.
At least in the near future, we're going to be on that tower. And if that capacity issue is a little different, we may have to reshape that because it's really a very complicated process. But what RF engineers do, they have a matrix and they're constantly upgrading that based on where the usage is, where their coverage is. So if where his tower is, there's not a significant amount of AT&T customers, they may eventually have to move those because they go where the customers are. At least in the near future, I don't know that there's an intent to get off of that tower.
Mr. Chambers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, 2 points. One, the site plan indicates screening trees, and we're not trying to screen the tower, but the equipment is important to screen. And also, you're on a very heavily traveled street. So it's important that those plants live. And the plant chosen is a plant that has a history of not surviving well, okay?
Okay.
It has a disease, an insect problem that's very, very hard to combat. And generally speaking, these are plant them and forget them kind of sites. They're not plant them and maintain them monthly kind of sites. So I would recommend that you substitute what you have suggested for a Nellie Stevens holly, which is a very dense growing, lower maintenance plant.
Okay.
But, I mean, you have an automatic irrigation system, so that's going to give it a chance to live. But
We have
it's
no
the,
problem.
it's the cypress that has a tough time in our area. We are a recommending body, and so I would, I would take a position of letting the city council sort out who's on first.
Thank you. Mr. White?
I was listening to both of y'all, and it's the thing that jumped up, and Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but several years ago, we had a problem, and there was a tower that we didn't want, and then we found out we really couldn't vote against it, and are we in the same situation here, where legally we can't vote against it?
That would be a legal question, but.
This was several years ago.
Yeah, the situation there, it was out in our ETJ, almost to the county line, and there was some issues with ownership and
Okay.
that kind, so that was the
so-
issue on that one. It wasn't necessarily the tower itself,
itself.
it was what was going on and whose neighbor had the right to do what on what neighbor's property and that kind of stuff.
So my question for both of y'all is this. You said it's a half a mile or 3/4 of a mile isn't very far, and we've got to do this. So, last week we had someone apply for a tower over by my office, which I wasn't extremely happy about. But at the same time, are we getting ready to see in the city of North Little Rock a tower popping up every half a mile? Because if we are, I'm definitely against this.
I would
because-
say that they're getting shorter, but we're very reliant on cellular coverage in the community. I mean, you have to have those
And that's
towers.
that, I just driving down the street and personally seeing a tower and then going another half a mile and seeing one and then seeing one another half a mile. I don't think that's something that our city wants to see, and we would rather, like this young man say, that y'all get together and figure this out. Now, as far as the height, that's pretty daggone high for being off of Percy Mason Drive, in my opinion. I just don't think this is appropriate. I think that these companies do need to get together like they have in the past. You know, my understanding is that we're all going to 5G and we're gonna have little bitty towers everywhere and they look like light posts. Well, it doesn't look like that's happening, but in Lakewood, we've got 3 new ones. And they made them into light towers or street lights, so they look okay. But, you know, I just would hate to see that, that we would set something up that all of a sudden, next month, we have someone else coming in, they want to put it a half a mile from you. And you made a comment that where the tower is, y'all don't have a lot of AT&T customers, and it seems weird that a half a mile up the road, you'd have a bunch of AT&T customers. I think that's kind of
No, I think you
strange.
misunderstood me, sir. I said, right now, there's no intent because that's where the matrix shows
Yeah.
those are. This actually is right adjacent to Interstate 40.
Oh,
And so a big portion of this coverage is to try to offload the capacity because I don't have to tell you, I drove in how many cars are on that road
Yeah.
at a given time. The height of that tower is because of how high the roadway is at that point and how tall the trees are. That's the reason why this is taller. Now, as you get into a residential area like yourself where there is more dense population, when there's more density, then you go to the small cells that like you're referring to. So that doesn't mean that there's going to be a tower every half mile. It means there will be some type of cellular unit every half mile because everybody needs and wants this coverage. They, people are getting rid of their home phones. They're using this as their emergency phone. And it's just impossible to get away from cellular communication. I was driving down the road the other day with a friend of mine, and we were talking about towers, and he said, well, I just don't know if everybody wants those towers. I go, you see all those things along the side of the road there? I said, you don't even notice those telephone poles anymore. And in my area where I live, they're 55 to 75 feet tall. I said, we don't even notice those anymore. They've been there 100 years, 120 years by now, because we all want our phones to work, and we know that that's the only way it can happen. So it's the reason why you don't see a lot of opposition until you get into residential areas. And believe me, there, we get opposition. But when we're in commercial areas, you need a little bit taller tower, particularly next to a highway. The idea that I need to work with this gentleman, I mean, we're already there. I mean, I don't know what there is to work with him. We're already on that tower. So
I don't want to get in that argument.
No, I'm just saying, though, I don't know what I
I
could...
just don't want a cell phone tower every, your comment was, every half a mile.
Well,
whatever.
eventually you probably will. They may not be tall. They may be 50, 60 feet tall, but there's no way to provide cellular coverage in a dense area, in a populated area, without having towers. I mean, there's no other way to do it. It's the only way cellular communication works.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Ferris. Mr. Chambers?
I find cell towers to be more or less ubiquitous, and frankly, unless I'm specifically hunting for them, my mind just kind of filters them out. They're like a telephone pole, like you say. You don't really see them until someone goes in, cleans up the neighborhood, puts all the electrical underground. It's like, wow, this looks really nice. So, as I said, let city council sort it out.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioners? Anyone else in the audience like to make a comment on the application as presented? Please call the roll.
Banks?
Yes.
Plasko?
Yes.
Chambers? Yes. Foster?
Yes.
Phillips? Yes. Pierce? Yes. Wallace?
Yes.
White?
No.
And Chairman Clifton?
Yes. Your application did pass. See
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Spencer, and he can tell you where to go next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Okay, next item, Mr. Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Development Review Committee met and considered item SD 2022-52, Twin City Edition, lots 7 through 8, Block 8, site plan review of a communications tower at 3128 Pike Avenue. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 11 in subsections, and the Design Review Committee recommends approval.
Motion made and seconded, this application be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Next item is SD 2022-56, Richards Road, Lot 3, preliminary plat located at 3300 ABF Road. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 9 in subsections, and the Design Review Committee recommends approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, this application be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners on the application as presented? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Next item is SD 2022-57, Maverick Edition, Lot 1 AR, site plan review of a truck wash at 3301 Valentine Road and a maintenance building located at 13401 Valentine Road. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 11 in subsections, and the Design Review Committee recommends approval.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, this application be approved as submitted. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? Would you like to make a comment?
No, sir. My name is Robert Brown, and I'm here representing the application on behalf of Maverick Transportation.
Okay. Any other comments? On the application as submitted, all in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Next item is SD 2022-58, Spectra Business Park. It has been postponed. Next item is SD 22-59, Wells Ridge Addition, Lot 1, preliminary plat and site plan review of a convenience store located on the northeast corner of I-40 and Highway 161. The applicant was present, agreed to items 1 through 15 in subsections, and the Design Review Committee recommends approval.
Second.
Yes.
Just representing
Give us your name for the record, please.
Jeffrey Parker with Holloway Engineering.
Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? All in favor on the application as submitted, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
And I return control of the meeting to you, Mr. Chairman.
Item number 7 on our agenda is rezone case number 2022-24 to rezone from C3 to R1 to allow construction of a single-family home at 401 Kellogg Acres Road. Is the applicant here?
Yes, sir. My name is Caleb Maiden.
Okay, and you are wanting to downzone to build a family home?
That's correct.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? On the application as submitted, please call the roll.
White? Yes. Wallace?
Yes.
Pierce?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Chambers?
Yes.
Glasgow?
Yes.
Banks?
Yes.
Your application was approved.
Oh, Chairman Clifton, I'm sorry.
I noticed that, but, yes,
Thank you.
the application was approved. See Mr. Spencer, and he can tell you what to do next. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Next item is item number 8, special use case number 2022-10 to allow a liquor store at 4900 JFK Boulevard in a C2 zone. Is the applicant here?
Yes.
Give us your name for the record, please.
Jaskaran Singh.
I'm sorry, say again?
Jaskaran Singh. You can call
Yes,
me
sir.
Jazz.
Yes, sir. Okay. Have you been submitted a copy of the Design Review Committee recommendations?
I have.
You agree with those?
Yes.
Have you had any opposition from the neighborhood on this?
We received one phone call in opposition, but that was the only phone call that we did receive.
Okay. Mr. White?
Are there signs up?
Yeah, the sign is up.
Yeah, I'd go by there every day and I don't see any signs.
I didn't see it either.
No, we put them up as soon as we got them. Well, it was time, and then I sent a picture to Donna.
Okay.
He did send a
Yeah.
picture.
Okay,
Yeah.
I drive by there almost every day and it's the reason.
For some reason, those little signs get legs and they run away. So it could be someone decided they needed it worse than that property, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Can I go ahead?
When we were looking at the site plan, Mr. Foster, you made some comments. Have those been addressed?
About halfway. They did remove our logo off the drawings, but it's still using a site plan that actually I developed myself, years ago, and I don't know how long ago. And this doesn't even represent the building that's there right now, so whatever.
Mr. White?
All right. I live in this area, and I think the reason the bank failed there is because it's impossible to get in and out of there. It's totally impossible. I hope you can find a place, because I read the deal about churches and stuff and where to find a location. I think this is a horrible location for a liquor store that's gonna have traffic. And the reason I think that is because you just look at it, and it's hard to get in and out, and that's already busy intersection. We have Starbucks across the street. That was a disaster. We probably should have never approved as well. And I just don't think this is the right area. It does back up to a neighborhood/apartment area, which doesn't concern me as much, but it's the traffic that it could cause, because that corner is already hard. And I'm not against your liquor store or whatever. I just don't care for the site. Being there, again, I drive by there every day, and even with it's empty, They had to mow the grass the other day, but,
Yeah, we had those same concerns. That's why we had come up with a solution about the customer, our employee going outside and controlling the traffic, because it's much easier to do that instead of just letting the cars pile up.
yeah, but they're gonna pile up. I mean, unless you're, the owner of Chick-fil-A, they're the only ones that have got this down.
I mean, we have
on
the same
traffic.
business idea. I don't think that will be a problem, to be honest with you.
Okay. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to make any comments on this application? Are there any other comments from any of the commissioners?
I'd have a couple more.
Mr. White?
Are we taking out where the ATM machines are and stuff?
Well, they're gonna work it out with the owner if they want to stay or not. It doesn't really matter, because we told them we need to take out the ATM, and they said, okay, that's fine. So, and they said if we want to keep them, they'll pay us rent, but it's no use for us, because it's just gonna block off.
It blocks you a
It
lot.
does. It just comes in the way with traffic. So
Okay.
we told them no, we don't want it.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Foster?
Did you express my concerns with the developer?
I did. I told him, and he said we had used BTEC for this survey. So, and I didn't, ask him, well, when did you do this and that, because he's the owner. I just didn't want to get into it with him or anything. But I took off the logo and I resubmitted it to Donna. But they said they used BTEC, so
They never paid us for it.
I'm not sure.
But
I'm
anyhow,
not sure.
plagiarism, I guess, is alive and well. Thank you.
I would have to agree with Mr. White. I myself think it's a terrible location to try to route traffic through for this kind of operation. And it purportedly would expect to be a high traffic generating business, being as what you're trying to do and where you're trying to do it. So,
But the site can hold up to 45 cars altogether at the lot.
So that's, I mean, that's a big amount of cars. That's a lot of cars. And we are going to be having we expect to have about 8 employees working on the clock at all times. So that should take care of it. And if anything, we can just hire more employees so it's a faster checkout time. It's all about checkout time in this business.
It's the ingress and egress that I'm talking about, not the parking spaces per se. Okay, any other comments from any commissioners? On the application as submitted, please call the roll.
Phillips? Pierce?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
White?
No.
Banks?
Yes.
Plasko?
Yes.
Chambers?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
And Chairman Clifton?
No. Your application was approved. See Mr. Spencer and he can tell you what to do next. Thank you.
It was?
That's a big facility.
Next item on our agenda is special use case number 2022-11, a special use to allow an after-school program daycare at 5301 Summer Tree Drive in an R2 zone in North Little Rock. Give us your name for the record, please.
Sequoia Millbrooks.
You have been to the site plan review committee, design review committee, and you were presented with a list of conditions to consider. Have you received a copy of those?
Yes, I did.
And do you agree with those?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Has there been any communication from the neighborhood?
One call, and the concern was the previous after-school program, there was noise that was later in the evening, and so they just wanted to be assured that the hours would be as the hours are stated within the application, and that there would be an effort to control the noise from the outside of the building, not necessarily inside, but outside activities.
Would you have means to try to address and control those concerns?
Yes, we're planning on having the gym used for the activities instead of outside.
Okay, good. All right. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this application? Any comments from any of the commissioners? On the application as presented, please call the roll.
Banks?
Yes.
Plasko?
Yes.
Chambers?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Phillips? Pierce?
Yes.
Wallace?
Yes.
White? And Chairman Clifton?
Please let the record show that I have abstained from
Yes, sir.
voting on this application. Yes, ma'am, your application was approved. See Mr. Spencer, and he can tell you what to do next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Public comments? Mr. Chambers?
Merely surprised that some of the council persons weren't here for the special use for the liquor store at JFK and McCain. I'm
Yeah.
kind of surprised that
I'm
the
surprised at that
that the
myself.
alder persons weren't here.
I am as well.
Move to
And-
adjourn?
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.
I don't count.